Nestled in the middle of England lies one of the most impressive industrial abandonments in the whole country. It formerly was a gigantic mining colliery that played a major part in the production of coal in Europe. After eyeing up the site for years, summer 2019 was the date we finally attempted to infiltrate the stunning mine, and we found that the complex was so vast that this is our first ever two-part documentation. In this episode, join us for part 1 of the mini-series to watch as we discover what's left. We begin our explore getting an overview of the coal mine and listening to the sounds of dogs barking ahead. We're hearing barking and we also see those vans there, but
exactly.
we know this site security though, let's be honest.
Yeah. I don't really have dogs.
No, but
Where else are the dogs going to be?
we don't want to remain up there for too long because we don't want to attract too much attention.
I see a car driving in there.
In the site?
Yeah. Like a black 4x4 or something.
Yeah, we don't want to spend too long in a noticeable spot like at the top of that hill. So we're heading back down into the forest, where we're going to look for a way onto the grounds of the actual property. Luckily for us, thick woodland surrounds most of the property, so we could get close to the border without being sighted. We had selected the ideal time of year to visit the complex because the summer season meant that the forest was dense and concealed. Progressing up to the colliery, everything appeared to be going smoothly until an event we had never experienced occurred.
Right, so these two have just been stung by wasps. I've been absolutely fucked. I've somehow survived.
I've been stung 3 times. Yeah.
Look at that. That is just awful.
I've been stung on my arse, so I can't show that, but
We're going through foliage and we hit a nest, like probably just by accident.
yeah.
And then they were everywhere. I got stung first on my finger, and then I think Ollie got stung, and then it was just back and back. Reese has survived though.
I was getting chased, but I somehow got out.
One like there or something.
Yeah, true. There was one on my tummy trying to sting me, like its bum was down. It was trying to get me, and I like whacked it with something, and it went off.
Oh,
It's so bad.
we have fun.
We decided to take a short break to get some supplies for the stings, but soon we were in the same spot on our second attempt. Down there is where we met the wasps, and we're going this way, trying to stay away from their nest. Our weird manoeuvres are due to the mine's CCTV coverage, with multiple cameras dotted all over the site. Being one of the most complete collieries in all of Europe, many of its buildings are listed as ancient monuments, therefore they are heavily monitored.
Is it alright?
Eventually we found ourselves on the outskirts of the huge premises. Unique structures surrounded us, overgrown with the intrusive nature that we are used to by now. Some of the mine's towering headstocks were also visible, like a historical beacon over the hilly landscape. These tall remnants would only be found on site at a mining colliery and would have been used to exploit the deep underground seams of the useful material.
So, we're now moving towards our first building, and this is the power station, but we need to stay low because this next bit that we need to go through to actually get to it is quite open, and we do think there's cameras. So we're going to make our way through now.
The reason we desired the access to the powerhouse first was because it contains some of the most ornate architecture of any building amidst the property. Situated in one corner of the land, it had many security measures around it, but we managed to avoid them to find our way inside. Immediately, the decorative tiling was right before us, combined with some enormous machinery.
Right, so we're now in our first building, and I think that these are the steam engines, possibly. 1914. It's a really old place, guys. Pretty sure that this place was used heavily in the Victorian era and actually provided power for a lot of the region and coal. But yeah, it's a massive building. I do love these machines though. The moss, the colours do look really cool.
The first section here was connected to the powerhouse but actually didn't link at all. As a matter of fact, this grand machine was a steam winding engine that would have run for 12 hours a day on 500 horsepower, meaning there were stables built beneath the structure to power it.
So obviously you can see when this place was a museum they put up these little barriers where people would walk that came to visit, and I also I'd kind of noticed stuff like this, but see the pipe in there, and then there's a little ramp going over just to protect people from tripping over. I just think that's quite a nice little feature that's survived till this day. And I mean, just look at that wheel. You can see how this place is so important in British history. That is massive, absolutely massive, and you can see the scaffolding they've used to try and keep it in its heyday.
Okay, so we've got some information here on the machines. I'm pretty sure this would have been for workers. It basically just talks about like the general functions and any like safety precautions that will be in place if anything was to go wrong. It's quite interesting.
Moving on from the impressive engine, we headed across the lengthy structure towards the powerhouse on the opposite side.
Awesome. Look at the colour.
This sizable room is practically an old-fashioned turbine hall like at a power station, but there are no turbines. With the house being operational from the early 1900s, compressor pumps and steam engines were used to generate the electricity for much of the mine's tools, like coal cutters. Air would have also been pumped down into the pits after the compressors had maintained its pressure, which would power the conveyor belts. All of this machinery is original and in great condition considering its environment. The floor that once led visitors to see the historical artefacts from a bygone era is covered in decayed tiling that has fallen from the walls, revealing the old brickwork behind it.
These machines are absolutely epic. We're pretty cautious right now because on our way into this very grand building, literally just as we were going inside, one of the cameras suddenly completely turned at a 90-degree angle to face us, and I've checked the same camera and it definitely turned, and I can see it out there actually, and it's still facing our way. So we're trying to stay away from windows and just be really quiet overall, but this building is still so impressive. I can't get over the tiling and the decay. and all the machinery as well. It's impossible to stay quiet on these things. These little bits of rubble, it's a nightmare.
We exited the scintillating powerhouse to return to the overgrown territory outside. Our next target was to seek entry into an underground section of the site, which was one of the only remaining tunnels below ground, after it had been converted and safety was ensured during the complex's museum duration. The ground we are moving across currently is believed to have its coal extracted from it as far back as the 14th century. Old data show sometime in the 1750s, with today's remaining colliery being built in the 1800s. It was one of the most productive mines in the country and broke records on the levels of coal it produced in the 1930s. Through most of the early 20th century's decades, the mine suffered during the recession, but managed to bounce back due to the close proximity of World War II. Following the war, the coal industry was nationalised, therefore the colliery experienced modernisation.
Right, up here or that way?
Left.
Look at that.
In the closing period of the 1970s, a nearby colliery was decided to be an easier option to work the abandoned mine's coal. A few years later, the famous premises ceased production to end over 150 years of mining in the area. All the locals have left of their heritage is the common sight of the iconic headstocks that look over the region, as well as the hope that some of the site may be saved in the future because of the structure's listed title. Meanwhile, we concluded that the underground parts we had wanted to see were sealed up tight, and we had found a way into another building on site, a more modern version of the winding house we had seen in the previous infiltration.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
After its installation in the mid-1960s, this machine boasted an electric drum that would function on 270 horsepower in comparison to the 500 of the older, larger winder of the same nature. This shows the focus on efficiency rather than craft, with the drum here being much less attractive than the prior, but with a better rate of cost. We had barely covered a quarter of the property, and the last train we had to catch was imminent. The WASP scenario had costed us dearly, but we were addicted to the amazing industrial sites. It was at this point we planned to return a few days later. Right beside the smaller winding house was one of the vulturous headstocks, so with a small amount of time left we spontaneously decided to try and ascend it to see what remained to be explored in the colliery.
If I die here, yeah, this is your fault.
Alright, this is probably one of the scariest things I've ever done. Yeah, I'm halfway now, I'm not turning around. Look at that. Look at the hole in it there. That will actually snap. Jesus Christ. It's one of them things where I've started now. Yeah, it's shaking a lot. Just look at the wheel.
Centrally perched in the site, we had an ideal view of the various buildings dotted around, seemingly peering out over the untainted tree domination. There was so much more to be done. Documenting a place as interesting as this is a surreal feeling, because it is an important part of Britain that has declined to nothing more than a barren wasteland. From having a status as prominent as anything in the county to being reduced to somewhere with no care, shown by the rusting machines and vandalism, it is these locations we enjoy most in urban exploration. In 2 weeks' time we will be back on the property covering more buildings on site to complete our presentation of the immense grounds. Here are some of our shots from the first day at the mining colliery. You can find more on our Instagram link below, as well as images of our explores months before we post them to YouTube. Next time. There was so much more to see in the mine that we spent even longer there than our first day. Join us to find out more about the impressive piece of industrial dereliction. Thanks for watching part 1 of our mine mini-series. We hope you enjoyed it. Should we film more segmented videos? Drop a like if you like the content, and we will see you next time.